Good afternoon. This is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding here to discuss the Title 26 Miscellaneous Offshore Penalty and how to calculate it. It's a mouthful. Generally, all this really is the 5% penalty associated with the Streamlined Domestic Offshore Procedures. Quick run through. The Streamlined Domestic Offshore Procedures is one of the streamlined programs used by individuals, trusts, and estates who were non-willful but out of compliance for reporting prior year offshore or foreign. The IRS uses those types of terms interchangeably along with international. Let's just stick with offshore. So offshore assets, accounts, income, and investments. The purpose of these procedures is to receive a 5% penalty in lieu of all those horrible penalties you've read about online, 50% penalty here, 5 years in prison there, things like that. Most of that is fear-mongering. It generally doesn't happen that way. So what will happen is when you're doing the streamlined domestic offshore procedures, you will submit a form 14654. On this form, and usually with a continuation sheet, because the form only allows for a few entries per year, you will list the year-end value for your accounts and assets. So typically what you'll do is you will look at each year in the compliance period. It's 6 years for FBAR, let's say, right? So you do 6 years, 2013 to 2018, 2014 to 2019, et cetera, et cetera. For each of those years, you break it down individually. You would have figured out what the year-end balance is for each of the assets in each year, and then use the exchange rate to compute what the USD value is. You can use any exchange rate you want as long as it's a regular exchange rate, not one that you just kind of found somewhere, but there's no backup or substance behind it. Most people will use the IRS average or the Treasury Department. If it's spot rates for other items, you may use OANDA, but Treasury Department is what most people will use. So then what you do is you look at the year-end balance for the assets and accounts for each year, and then you aggregate them. So you total them up, and you pick the 1 year that has the highest value, and then you will multiply that by 5%. Unlike completing an FBAR or submitting an 8938 regular timely on that form, the Title 26 offshore penalty in association with the streamlined domestic doesn't base it on the max value, bases it on the year-end value. This is to avoid duplicate reporting and artificially high values. Maybe you sold a house sometime in the middle of the year and your balance is artificially high, but you're non-willful. The IRS isn't going to penalize you that bad like they would if you were willful and submitting to, let's say, post-OVDP, traditional voluntary disclosure, which is based on the highest year value. The penalty is due at the time that you make your submission. So what would happen is if you're doing streamlined domestic, you'll prepare a form 14654, do the certification, tax liability, you'll compute your penalty, and then you will submit your Title 26 miscellaneous offshore penalty together with your amended returns in a nice, neat package to the Austin address located on the form. The most important tip in preparing the calculation is to be sure that the asset or account you have is included in the penalty. For example, you may have a Canadian RRSP or an RRIF. These are generally excluded. They're exceptions to the penalty. So that wouldn't be included. It'll be on your FBAR and your 8938, but it wouldn't be included as part of the penalty computation for the Title 26 penalty. Likewise, there are certain assets that are exempted. For example, you may own individual real estate overseas. Maybe you're renting a property. Maybe you have several properties. If they're under your name individually, not part of the penalty computation. If it's part of a corporation, maybe you own a foreign sociedad anonima, whether you're using it for state or corporate purposes, a Hong Kong private limited, an Australian limited, et cetera, you wouldn't exclude that portion of the value of the company because it's real estate. It has to be individually owned. As you can see, it gets super complicated. This is just a 5-minute introduction. I hope it gives you a general idea. Of course, you could visit our website, goldinglawyers.com. We have tons of free material. We also have a separate website devoted exclusively to the streamlined procedures, and it's IRSstreamlinedprocedures.com. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.